Hello guys, welcome to my presentation. This week I'm gonna present presentation of Gatsby's chapter 2. Let's begin. I want to give a introduce for the chapter 2 for you. Um, this chapter plays a crucial role in the development of the novel as it introduces us to some of the key symbols such as the Valley of Ashes, and the eyes of Dr. T.J. Eckleberg, and while deepening our understanding of the main characters, particularly Tom Buchanan, and this chapter also serves as a turning point in revealing the complexities of class and morality, which are central themes in the novel. Also, you will see the Valley of Ashes in the next slide. You can see in the right, there's an original photo of Valley of Ashes in Great Gatsby movie. So I want to do a short brief summary for you. In chapter 2, Nick Carver narrates a trip with Tom Buchanan and to the Valley of Ashes, a bleak industrial area between West Egg and New York City. The valley symbolizes the moral of and social decay and that underlies the pursuit of the American dream. The eyes of Dr. T.J. Eckleberg, a faded billboard depicting a pair of giants. Also, we have also picture of that billboard. Disembodied eyes loom over these wastelands, symbolizing a loss of spiritual and moral direction in the society that the characters inhabit. Tom and Myrtle's affair. Also, you can see this woman is Myrtle, and the right one, the male one, is the Tom. Tom takes Nick to meet Myrtle Wilson, his mistress, and Myrtle is unhappily married to George Wilson, her husband, a mechanic who owns a garage in the Valley of Ashes. That's George Wilson. Myrtle's attraction to Tom stems from her desire to escape her working class life and in a Valley of Ashes and climb the social ladder. Tom, on the other hand, is using Myrtle to break free from his controlling marriage to Daisy. The dynamic between them illustrates the imbalance of power, where Tom treats Myrtle as an object of desire, while Myrtle sees Tom as a means to escape her own life of poverty. Um, so I want to mention about the apartments of Tom and Myrtle where they go. The three of them, also Nick, by the way, the three of them had two apartments in the New York City where they have a party. The apartment becomes a kind of refuge for Tom and Myrtle where they can express their desires without being judged and by society rules. However, the party quickly descends into chaos and violence. After heated arguments about Daisy and Tom, in a shocking display of power and control, he strikes Myrtle, and this symbolizing his belief that his wealth and status give him the right to dominate others. For example, his strike to the Myrtle, even violently. This act of violence also shows the cruelty and moral indifference that define Tom's character. Also, in previous slides, we see Tom Myrtle, and that's the Nick in the movie, original photo of Nick. So let's talk about who is Nick. Nick, who is clearly uncomfortable with the events around him, watches all of these unfolds. His role as the observer of Tom and Myrtle's dysfunctional relationship adds to the reader's sense of moral disillusionment. as Tom and Myrtle continue their affair. Nick's awareness of the differences class, power, and the morality only grows stronger, setting the stage for the tension that will develop throughout the novel. And that's the summary of a brief summary of chapter 2. So I want to talk about my reflection for chapter 2. Chapter 2 is essential for the other chapters because it highlights the deep social and moral divisions in the novel. Tom's affair with Myrtle represents not only infidelity but also the stark class divide. Tom, coming from wealth and sees Myrtle as a means of escapism and entertainment, while Myrtle dreams of escaping her working class reality. Their relationship, built on state imbalance, mirrors the broader dysfunction of society in the novel. So, in the previous slides, we saw the photo of the Valley of Ashes. I mentioned a shorter, but I want to talk about for special slide for the Valley of Ashes, the symbol of decay. The Valley of Ashes serves as a powerful symbol of decay and emptiness. It contrasts sharply with the glamorous and seemingly perfect worlds of West Egg and East Egg. The eyes of Dr. T.J. Eckleberg, towering over the valley, represent a godlike figure who seems to observe the character's moral failing but is powerless to intervene. Also, this creates a sense of moral bankruptcy in the society Fitzgerald is depicting. Um, and on the other hand, I talked about Tom strikes the Myrtle. That means the power and violence of Tom. Tom's treatment of Myrtle, especially the physical violence he shows when he strikes her, reveals his arrogance, sense of entitlement, and lack of respect for others. This act of violence underscores the theme of power and control that runs throughout the novel. It's clear that Tom's wealth and status make him feel above the law and above any form of empathy for the people around him. And I have a short summary video for chapter 2 to give you an interactive presentation.
Chapter 2 of The Great Gatsby opens with a description of the Valley of Ashes. This is a dismal location between the eggs and New York City. This place is coated in gray dust, and it's a dumping ground for New York City. There's an enormous faded billboard of Dr. T.J. Eckleberg. On the billboard are two large eyes.
And that's the billboard that mentions other slides, the billboard of Dr. T.J. Eckleberg.
Peering out from enormous yellow spectacles. Tom and Nick are taking the train in New York City. Tom wants to introduce Nick to Myrtle Wilson, his mistress and the wife of garage owner George Wilson. The Wilsons' garage is unprosperous and it's bare. Myrtle makes excuses to meet up with her sister and joins Tom and Nick on the train in New York. Once in New York, they take a taxi from the train station. Myrtle insists they stop and buy a puppy from a street vendor. Her sister, Catherine, and her friends join them at the apartment. Everyone begins drinking excessively. Myrtle shows off the puppy to her friends as a new accessory. This is superficial. She doesn't have any real affection for the puppy. Myrtle begins to complain about her life and about Tom's marriage to Daisy. Infuriated, she would say Daisy's name over and over again. Tom strikes Myrtle, breaking her nose. The party comes to an abrupt end. Nick gets out of there and takes an early morning train back to Long Island. Now, the Valley of Ashes is a symbolic place literally covered in the waste of capitalism, consequences of the pursuit of wealth. For example, Dr. Eckelberg's faded eyes. George Wilson later refers to these as the eyes of God. This suggests that spirituality and religion are long forgotten institutions. This reflects an immorality and the corruption of the novel. Geography is used as a motif for differentiating social classes. For example, this concept of class, upper versus lower. George seems content with his station in life. Myrtle, like Jay Gatsby, longs for attention and affluence. Now, during the party, Myrtle pretends as if she's a wealthy socialite. She mimics what she perceives to be the attitudes of the wealthy. It's clear the puppy has no real meaning to Myrtle or Tom. There's absolutely no acknowledgement of the affair's immorality. Despite her eagerness, it's clear Myrtle can't pull off this facade. Tom reminds Myrtle of her place. You're poor, stay there. This, of course, displays his brutishness.
Let's head to the conclusion. And by the way, that's the photo from also movie, the Dr. T.J. Eckleberg's Billboard, original Billboard. So in overall, chapter 2 is pivotal chapter in The Great Gatsby because it provides insights into Tom's character and his relationship with Myrtle, which serves as a contrast to his marriage to Daisy. The Valley of Ashes and the Eyes of Dr. T.J. Ackleberg are powerful symbols that reflect the emptiness and corruption beneath the surface of the American dream. The chapter also deepens our understandings of the themes of class, power, and morality that Fitzgerald explored throughout the novel. This chapter sets the tone for the unfolding drama and moral decay that will lead to the tragic events in the later chapters. So thanks for listening. My presentation is over.
Thank you, Yos, for your presentation. I really appreciate it. And I'll ask other mates to unmute their microphones so we can start to discuss about the worksheet. I'm going to share the worksheet myself. Let me see for a second. Can you see it?
Yeah, you can see it.
Okay. I think we're good to start. So I'm gonna have I'm introduce the concept to Khan. I usually have 1, 2, 3 of you answer the questions, including also me. I'm gonna answer it myself too. I mean, answer the questions, each question, and we're gonna discuss them. Then we're gonna go. First of all, I forgot to ask about the presentation about. I mean, I like to ask your opinion on the presentation. So first, I'm gonna ask Koray, what you think about the presentation and how was it?
Actually, the presentation was great, and by far it was the best presentation since we have started doing this activity.
Okay.
I especially, I especially liked the parts where he used the uh, original images and the parts that he used a video to express the topic better. It was great.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And so I'm gonna ask Ege, what you think about the presentation?
I think it's good because it's the first presentation that use the examples of videos of people and different visuals than others. So I think it's the best so far.
Okay, thank you. By the way, I also had, I mean, I don't know if you listened or not, I had a lot of visuals. I also had a video and like I shared YouTube video and also shared two articles with you. I mean, so I'm like to ask Khan about his opinion.
Um, I th- I thought the presentation was very well done. There was a lot of effort put into it. Obviously, it looked like it did like my last presentation didn't look nearly as uh didn't look nearly as much work put into it as Yao's. So other than that, the presentation, it's other than the presentation, the way you presented it was kind of like just robotic and only reading, but other than that, it was great.
I really appreciate your opinion and thank you for the comparison. And I also appreciate yours for the presentation. It was a great presentation. Being humble, of course. I mean, your presentation was really good. And so we're gonna move on to the worksheet. Do you still have the photo of the worksheet that I shared, or can you see it? I mean, the questions.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm gonna start with the first question, and I'm gonna have Mr. Koray and who Ege answer it. So the first question, the value of ashes as a symbol. How does Fitzgerald use the value of ashes to reflect the moral and social decay of the characters? What might the ashes symbolize in the context of the American dream? Correct?
Yeah. Fitzgerald uses the Valley of Ashes to represent moral and social decay because it's a place full of waste and emptiness, much like the characters' lives. The ashes symbolize the result of blind materialism, the destruction of the environment, and the loss of values in the pursuit of wealth. In the context of the American dream, the valley shows how the dream has been corrupted by greed and corruption. It's a place of poverty and hopelessness where people like George Wilson struggle, contrasting sharply with the wealth and excess found in other parts of the novel. The valley suggests that the American dream has failed many people, leaving them in a poor, lifeless world. This was my answer.
I really appreciate your answer. And Ege, what you think about the question?
The first one or the second one?
First one.
Uh, the value of ashes as a symbol for decay and corruption. I think Kurai demonstrated it really well. Um, the thing that it is in this a dirty industrial area between the rich parts of the story, like West Egg and East Egg. It really leads to the question that the representative unit of the volley, and I think it represents the ugliness behind the fancy, glamorous lives of the characters.
Thank you again for your answer. And I appreciate that you follow the questions. For the second question, I'm gonna answer it myself, Khan and Yus. Eyes of Dr. T.J. Eckelberg. The eyes of Dr. T.J. Eckelberg are described as brooding or the valley. What do they symbolize, and how might they relate to the theme of surveillance or judgment in the novel? So, what I said is, I mean, the eyes of Dr. T.J. Eckelberg, depicted on a billboard overlooking the Valley of Ashes, symbolize the themes of surveillance and judgment. They seem to watch over the character's actions, representing an omnipresent, godlike figure that is disconnected and indifferent to the character's moral corruption. So this also, I mean, represent the loss of spiritual values of the in the novel society. So that was my answers. And Khan, can you answer the question, please? Question two.
Okay, so I said that I said something similar, like surveillance, godlike figure. Other than that, I also added like the disillusionment of society, like the fact that society has become devoid of a moral direction. Other than that, my answer is pretty much the same.
Okay, I'm happy that we have the same opinions. And what you think, Yos?
I'm gonna read my answer. The eyes of
Okay.
Dr. T.J. Eckleberg symbolize judgments, positioned over the Valley of Ashes. They seem to watch over characters representing a higher moral authority or a reminder of spiritual emptiness. Some view them as God's eyes observing the character's actions. Um, the eyes also symbolize the loss of moral in society, where there's a materialism replaced the deeper ethical values. They stand as silent witnesses to the moral and destructive behaviors of characters in novel like Tom. That's my
Thank
answer.
you. I appreciate your answer, and we're gonna move on to the third question with again Koray and Ege. Materialism and its impact, Mrs. From which of you my voice is echoing?
No.
I mean, okay. Materialism and its impact, Mrs. Wilson's actions and desires purchasing the dog and emphasizing luxury. Reveal a focus on materialism. How does this contrast with the setting of the Valley of Ashes? What does it say about her character and social aspirations? Why? Koray.
Okay. Myrtle's obsession with material things, such as buying the dog, shows her desire to escape her lower class life and be
Can I
part of
interrupt
the
you for a second? Sorry.
what?
Iggy, can you turn off your microphone?
My phone is already turned up.
Okay.
Thank you.
She focuses on outward symbols of wealth, like the dog and her behavior in this tea, because she thinks they'll bring her happiness and status. The Valley of Ashes, by contrast, is a place of stark poverty and hopelessness, showing how far Meryl is from her real desires and what she is willing to sacrifice to get them. This contrast between the valley and her actions emphasizes her inner dissatisfaction and yearning for a different life. Muriel's character is driven by the belief that wealth and status will solve her problems, even though this pursuit is ultimately empty and destructive. That was my answer.
Thank you. And Iggy, can you answer the question if your microphone is
Okay. Um, she's kind of obsessed with luxurious things, which highlights her obsession with material wealth and mobility. I think it more shows that she focuses on material things like wealth and social status. She's unhappy with her poor life in the Valley of Ashes and dreams of escaping it by being with Tom, who represents the fancy and luxurious life she adores. I think these are valid answers because she had a poor background.
Thank you. I think you have a problem with your microphone. Your voice is not clear on and off. So, I mean, we're gonna move on to the third question, and I'm gonna have only one or two of you answering it. I mean, depending on our speed of this session. So, not three, of course. Four, character analysis. Myrtle's transformation. What does Myrtle's behavior and attitude change when she is in New York compared to when she's in Garage? What does this reveal about her perceptions of herself and her aspirations? So first, I'm have Khan answering it.
Yeah, sorry. Okay. So the fourth question, right?
Yes.
I wrote that in New York, Myrtle adopts a more glamorous, assertive attitude, showing her desire to escape her lower class status and elevate herself. In contrast, in the garage, she is more subdued and aware of her position. This shift reflects her internal conflict, which are her desperate longing for a better life and her misguided aspirations. Basically, I just said that she assumes that a glamorous, wealthy life basically is equivalent to just direct happiness, and sadly, she's mistaken.
Yeah, yeah, I really agree with that. So I also have Yos answering this question, so we can discuss this question more deeply. Yos, are you there?
Yeah, yeah.
Sorry, I think I accidentally muted.
The fourth question, right?
Yes.
My answer is in New York, Myrtle transforms from a working class woman into someone who attempts to act more sophisticated. I mean, she changes her appearance, behavior, and trying to live to her image of wealth and status. Also, this transformation reflects her belief that escaping her lower class reality will bring her happiness and success that she believed. However, her actions also reveal her desperation to trying to be someone that she isn't, showing the thing between aspiration and reality. I think that's all.
Okay, thank you. Also to add on that, I mean, I also think that this transformation shows her perception of herself as someone who deserves more than her current life offers, asserting her aspirations for upward mobility. So, thank you. For fifth question, I'm gonna have Korai answering it. First of all, I'm gonna read the question. Tom Buchanan's violence. So, Tom's act of breaking Myrtle's nose is shocking. How does this incident reflect his character and his relationships with the woman in his life? What does it say about power dynamics in the novel?
Um, okay. Tom's act of breaking Myrtle's nose shows his need to assert control and dominance over others. He feels entitled to treat Myrtle however he wants, reflecting his view of women as objects to be controlled. This violence also reveals the power imbalance in his relationships, where he holds all the authority and has no problem using physical force to maintain it. It highlights the theme of power dynamics in the novel, particularly how wealth and status allow some characters to dominate others. Tom's violent reaction is a reminder of his arrogance and the way he disregards people who are beneath him, reinforcing his belief in his superiority.
Thank you, Korai. So, Ege, can you answer the question if you don't have a problem
Is
with your
my
mic?
microphone okay?
Yes, yes, it's fine.
I agree with Koray, but I have a slightly different perspective about this topic. Um, I think it represents his true uncontrollable nature. This incident implies that Tom's desires are unstoppable and he proceeds to do whatever he wants without thinking about others, regardless the consequences.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And before moving on to the fifth question, of course, this act of violence, of course, is nothing good to talk about in any sort of ways. I mean, violence is not acceptable, and also like the lack of genuine emotional connections in the novel. I mean, it demonstrates that, and Tom's violence also symbolizes the moral decay of the upper class, where the pursuit of power and pleasure comes at the expense of others. Yeah. And for the sixth question, George Wilson's spiritlessness. So George Wilson is described as a spiritless man. How does this characterization contrast with the Myrtle's vitality? And why does this reveal about their marriage and the broader themes of control and dissatisfaction? I think it's Yo's turn, isn't it? I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's my turn.
Okay.
Um, George Wilson is described as spiritless, so a man who lacks, as question said, vitality or ambition. This contrasts with Myrtle's energy and desire for a better life. They want different things, and they have different characteristics. Sum up. George's spiritlessness reflects his resignation to his lower class position and hopelessness of his situation. He don't have extreme dreams like Myrtle. Myrtle, who seeks escape through Tom. George is passive and incapable of change. This, in my opinion, contrast exposes the imbalance in their marriage. I mean, George and Myrtle. While Myrtle seeks the excitement, wealth, and escape, while George wants, remain with powerless existence, the unspiritless and unable to break free from the limitations of his life. And that's my opinion.
Thank you for this comprehensive answer. So I'm also gonna have Khan answering this question. Then we're gonna move on to the next. Khan.
Yeah, sorry. Okay, so I said again. I said something similar. I mean, obviously, there's no debating or even the point of arguing or even discussing violence against women, especially domestic violence, is completely unnecessary. Like, there's absolutely nothing to discuss. Uh, he's basically just another rich white guy who thinks he can do whatever he wants.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Also, I think Gianluca left a comment, but whatever. We're gonna move on. For the seventh question, we have context and setting. Contrasts between settings. Compare and contrast the descriptions of the value of ashes and the New York apartment. How do these settings reflect the characters' lives and values? So I'm gonna answer this question first. So I believe the Valley of Ashes is described as a bleak and lifeless place, symbolizing the moral and physical decay of society. In contrast, the New York apartment is an opulent setting filled with excess and indulgence. So the contrasting environments reflect the characters' lives and values, while Tom and Myrtle seek to escape their reality through wealth and luxury, they are still trapped in a cycle of moral emptiness. And I'm gonna quickly, I think this is enough. I mean, no one's gonna tell anything different than this because it's a more of a knowledge question more than discussion. So we're gonna move on to the eighth question, social hierarchy, the relationship and dynamics between Tom, Myrtle, and George highlight social class divisions. How do these relationships illustrate the power and privilege associated with wealth in the novel? So, Korai?
Yeah. The relationships between Tom, Meryl, and George highlight the rigid social class divisions in the novel. Tom, as a wealthy man from Essex, has the power to control and dominate Meryl, who is from a lower social class. George, Meryl's husband, is an example of someone stuck in the lower class, powerless to escape his situation. Meryl's affair with Tom is her attempt to break free from her lower class life and achieve the material comfort she craves, but it only reinforces the social gap between them. These dynamics illustrate how wealth grants power and privilege, while those without it are trapped in their circumstances.
Thank you, Korai. And I think this meeting is done. Join the meeting from the same Link after a minute of closing. It's just close. Okay, I think it's recording.
Mhm.
So we're gonna move on to the ninth question after Koray answered the eighth one. Ninth question, narrative perspective. Nick describes himself as within and without, simultaneously enchanted and repelled by the inexhaustible variety of life. How does this dual perspective shape our understanding of the events in this chapter? Ege?
There are various social divisions and power dynamics in the novel. In my opinion, Tom represents the wealthy upper class, and Myrtle, I don't know how it's pronounced, uh, represents the personal change and its effects in a lifestyle, because she was living in a garage and then she moved to New York, and she's behavior completely changed. I mean, she's from a poor background and desires to escape from being a middle class citizen. That's why she does not have good relations with her husband George Wilson, uh, and George, who lacks wealth and power despite his hardworking and strong durability. He's still a poor person, even though he works real hard. I think that emphasized the issue with American Dream, in my opinion. Even though he works real hard, he cannot have the economical power he imagines.
I understand.
That's all.
So I really appreciate your answer. I'm also going to answer this question one more time. I mean, it's same thing actually, but like the narrative perspective also has shaped, I mean, this author's perspective and our reader's perspective, because the narrator, which is I think Nick himself, and like what how he narrates the story, um and the way he narrates his story, he says he's not judgmental, but he actually is. And like the way he observes and participates in the events without around him, he is like fascinated by the um descendants. I mean, the variety of the life, and like yeah, yet he's repelled by the moral decay and superficiality of the people he encounters. So this was also my answer, and we're gonna move on to the tenth question with Fitzgerald's use of imagery. The chapter is filled with vivid imagery, such as the ashen dust and Myrtle's surplus flesh. How does Fitzgerald use these descriptions to deepen the reader's understanding of the characters and their environment? So I think it's Corai's turn to answer.
I'm going to read my answer. Fitzgerald uses vivid imagery like the ashen dust
Hmm.
and Myrtle's surplus flesh to deepen our understanding of the characters and their environment. The imagery of the valley of ashes, dust, and grayness emphasizes the bleakness and desolation of the area, mirroring the characters' emotional emptiness. Myrtle's physical description, with her surplus flesh, suggests both her material desires and her attempts to fit into a world that doesn't fully accept her. These descriptive choices highlight the disconnect between the characters' inner desires and the reality of their circumstances. Through these images, Fitzgerald critiques both the characters and the society they inhabit.
Thank you, and I'll also have Aya answering this question. Aya, are you there? Yes.
Yeah, yeah, I'm here. Um, um, I think Fitzgerald uses vivid imagery such as the ashen dust and Myrt. Uh, can I have a request? Can I answer the 11th question because I was not ready for this question?
Okay, no problem. You can answer the 11th question.
I can
Read the
answer
question
the
first.
10th question.
Yes, you can answer the 10th question first, then I'm gonna read the 11th question, then Ege can answer it.
Okay, for my opinion, Fitzgerald's use of imagery such as ashen dust and Myrtle's surplus flesh. To be honest, I don't know the meaning of surplus. Also, these imageries, I think, highlights the emptiness and the characters that they live. The ashen dust symbolizes the moral decay and the physical descriptions of Myrtle, like emphasize her desperation to wealth and glamorous. Also, these images reinforce the theme of, the superficiality. Also, these images showing how the characters focus on appearances while their lives and morals fall apart. That's my answer, I guess.
I really appreciate your answer. And I mean, for the surplus flesh, surplus means when something is more than it's supposed to be, and
Mm.
flesh is like the, I mean, to when you stimulate something, or kind of also has like a dead body. I mean, which kind of describes the myrtle here. And so I'm gonna move on to the next question with question 11. Deception and lies. It's about the ethical and philosophical reflections. So both Myrtle and Tom lie about their relationship and intentions. What does this suggest about the role of the deception in the pursuit of happiness or the American dream? Again,
So before, as I said before, Myrtle has a poor background, and as just like her husband, they lie about their relationships. They do not have a healthy relationships. That's why they lie to themselves. I think that's the other side of the coin about American Dream. American Dream suggests that people with they can use their talents accordingly and can have their powerful economic situation and family. But uh, even though Tom works real hard, he cannot. He's still poor. He cannot have that powerful economical situation. So um, that's why in the context of the American dream, this dishonesty suggests that the ideal of the success often requires manipulation and this self-deception. So yeah.
thank you for your answer, Iggy. And I mean, also like of course, it's kind of cheating. I mean, what happened here in their relationship? They're lying about their relationship intentions. And I mean, this reflects the lack of honesty and authenticity in the characters' lives. And like, I mean, they're rich, but I mean, they're not happy, as you can tell. I mean, I mean, it also shows that kind of like money is not everything. Of
She
course, when
adores luxury lives and glamorous lifestyles, but her husband is poor. So yeah, that's not gonna be a healthy relationship because uh, he's not the one she looks for.
yes, for the 12th question, I mean, the moral decay. How does this chapter portray the consequences of moral decay among the characters? In what ways does Fitzgerald critique the society of the Roaring Twenties through these depictions? Koray?
Okay, this chapter shows the consequences of moral decay through the characters, actions, and attitudes. Tom's violence toward Myrtle's materialism, and the emptiness of the Valley of Ashes all reveal a society where superficial desires and power struggles replace deeper moral values. Fitzgerald critiques the society of the Roaring Twenties by showing how its focus on wealth and pleasure leads to emptiness and destruction. The characters are trapped in a cycle of deception, materialism, and violence, which erodes their ability to form meaningful connections. Through these depictions, Fitzgerald shows how the pursuit of the American dream has resulted in a morally bankrupt society.
Thank you for your answer, and I mean, I'll also ask Yos this question. Then we're gonna end the meeting. I mean, it's the end of the worksheet.
Okay, just a second. Um, Sorry for waiting for a second. I'm trying to open my um, yeah. The last question, right?
Yes.
Um, in my opinion, chapter generally um, mentioned about characters' moral decay, as I said in the presentation. Um, Materialism or George's spiritless and resignation show how individuals in the novel are corrupted by the greed of wealth and desire and a lack of moral direction. For example, Myrtle. Fitzgerald critiques the roaring 20s society, I mean American dream, where superficiality and excess replace deeper values like honesty and like that. The characters' actions filled with lies and violence. For example, the violence is Tom strikes to the Myrtle, and selfishness or arrogance. Um, all these factors demonstrate how the pursuit of wealth and status leads to loss of moral, which is resulting in personal and social destruction in the world of the Gatsby. I mean,
Okay. Thank you for your answer, and you can stop the recording now because we're done. The meeting is done. See you next week.